Chad Dawson.
I want to thank everybody for coming out, the media, HBO for having me on again. I want to thank Bernard for finally taking the fight. I want to thank Gary Shaw for having faith in me and still put me on. And even though I had a bad loss to John Pascal first time out, then Bernard came back and beat him after that, beat him twice. Because I thought Bernard won the first fight. It was a good fight, but me and John Pascal are two different fighters. I'm more of a laid-back boxer. And a lot of people think I can't punch, but October 15th, I'm going in. I'm not going in for a decision. I'm going in for a knockout. Bernard Hopkins is 47 years old, 29, and honestly, I don't see any way he can beat me. I thought that for the last 3 years, and I still think it now. And Bernard's gonna have to be on the A game on that night because it's over. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Team Hopkins, I'd like to introduce to you Team Hopkins, a group which is very close-knit, which has worked together through so many great successes. A lot of, fighters, Chad just said, they won't, when they wake up the next morning after the fight, they still don't know what happened. And today, some of those fighters still don't know what happened when they went into the ring with Bernard Hopkins. And that's what Bernard Hopkins does. That's who he is. That's how he fights. And that's the team he has around him, which help him to prepare, condition, and really be in the best possible shape. I'd like to acknowledge his attorney, Eric Meltzer, who is here, Danny Davis, who's been with him for so many years. Malik, all of you guys, great to have you here. And now his trainer, Gary mentioned his name, is one of the most accomplished trainers in the sport of boxing. Really a strategist who knows how to put the perfect game plan together. And that, of course, his brother Nassim Richardson.
Assalamu alaikum. Quickly, I wanted to mention a few things. One is, make sure, please, I'm focused on Chad Dawson, awesome young fighter, but make sure in our room we have a monitor so that I can watch some of these kids on these undercards. Because I watch most of these kids grow up and they're outstanding. That Linares kid is a beast. I watched Kendall Holt, I watched Danny Garcia since he was a baby. Danny used to have a rough way to go, and I used to tell him, listen, we all gonna eat, we just all can't fit at the table at the same time. And I told him it's his time to eat now, and he's showing it. You know what I mean? So I watched Kendall Holt since he was a young fighter in the Golden Gloves. And I've worked with Chad Dawson in the amateurs and took him to tournaments, and he's a phenomenal young athlete. So I have a great deal of respect for these young guys, and this undercard is going to be awesome. I just want to say that first and foremost. Now, in regards to talking about Bernard Hopkins, you can't speak about this man with anything other than with respect. If I was sitting across from him, I still couldn't have anything for him but respect. Because he is the reason a lot of these young fighters are on the card. Chad has been watching Bernard a lot more years than Bernard has been watching Chad. We know that. Because these kids grew up admiring Bernard Hopkins and learning from Bernard Hopkins. So you have to see the respect in the format that he laid before these young athletes. In that, I've thought about putting some kind of plaque together, acknowledging my team, Danny Davis and Sharif and Malik and Moses and all the guys on the team. And I just couldn't come up with anything. I wanted to do something for Bernard Hopkins because I really don't think y'all understand what I'm saying. The old timers will tell you about Ray Robinson during that era. This is the era you're living now, Bernard Hopkins. And the best I can do, I couldn't come up with much, but I did something that I think, well, he can understand because I've known Bernard for years. So I know he'll understand this if nobody else does this. The one thing I wanted to do is Bernard handed me this, my payment for the Pascal fight. He handed me this after the fight. And he was so outstanding, and I've just been trying to find a way to honor him, and I just couldn't come up with anything. And what I was going to do, at least because I know Bernard for years, I'm going to hand this back to Bernard Hopkins and tell him it's been an honor, and that fight working with you was an honor, and that team working with these guys was an honor in that sense. That was enough for me. I mean, I don't know how to do anything else for you, man. Because what you've accomplished in boxing, I'm a boxing fan first. And what this man has done in boxing, to say you don't like Bernard Hopkins or you got a problem with Bernard Hopkins, mean you don't like boxing. Because this man has done everything. He's not only been a great fighter for years, he's been one of the great characters. He's been one of the great personalities. You reporters know, you know how many pages you put out on Bernard Hopkins when there was nothing to write. You thought sometime to me, call Bernard. Because all I got to do is say, Bernard, give me a quote, and then you're going to need 2 more batteries in your recorder. And Bernard took care of you, you know what I mean? But he was always there saying something inquisitive, something entertaining, but you can't remember any time he didn't say something that wasn't accurate. I argue with him all the time. I argue with him more than anybody else. And sometimes I just sit back and say, man, I don't want Bernard to be this right. You know what I mean? Because usually he won't stand up unless there's something accurate he wants to put forward. So this is what I'm saying. It's been my honor and my pleasure to work with an athlete of this magnitude. Chad Dawson is a great young man. I'm not quick to give everybody great champions and things of that nature, and it takes time. It takes time. I believe in Chad. I believe Chad as a young light heavyweight, I've said he might be the most technically sound of the young light heavyweights. He may be the most technically sound. Pascal was definitely the most dangerous, as Chad found out. But Bernard has faced all of these things before. And what you have to understand when you deal with us and when you deal with our team, when I'm talking about my team, I'm talking about our entire team. When you deal with us and you deal with our team, we've taken that walk. You're not going to intimidate. There's nothing in boxing you're going to do that's going to intimidate us, because we've seen it. We're not going to be intimidated. We've taken that walk. It's ignorant to say, did you see him lose to a southpaw? Every reporter face I saw changed and known him for the years, because they're saying that's the only southpaw that's ever gotten past him. Ever. You cannot underestimate this man. You must speak of him in respect. This is a living legend. This is a great athlete. Everybody else, I remember years ago, a trainer told me, as a young trainer, old-time trainer told me, he said, every 20 years or so, something great comes along. Everybody in between there is just a good fighter. Eddie Futch told me that years ago. And what you have to understand, this is one of our legends. Celebrating now. Let's not wait. Celebrating now. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your patience.
I totally agree with you, Nassim. I think what Bernard has accomplished, sometimes it takes one to retire, be away from the sport, to really, for us, to fully appreciate what he has accomplished, to really embrace how special that particular athlete was. And that's what we see. We see a very special person, a very special athlete here with Bernard Hopkins. And for all of us to be able to see him either live at Staples Center or to see him on HBO pay-per-view on October the 15th is one of those moments we don't want to miss, because we want to be able to say, you know, we were there, we saw it. We saw it on pay-per-view, or we saw it at Staples Center, when yet again he took down a young, dangerous opponent and taught him a lesson, just like he'd done with so many before. When he fought Oscar de la Hoya, when he fought Tito Trinidad, we doubted it. We doubted that he's going to win that middleweight tournament. Trinidad was the favorite, and Bernard Hopkins made believers out of all of us. Antonio Tarver, another one moving up and fighting the undisputed light heavyweight champion Tarver. Look, the number